Yesterday we talked about DPSP, right? Any confusion regarding DPSP? What is DPSP? What are its features? एक चीज लक्ष्मीकांत में दिया है, let me be aware of it. There is neither a single element of liberal philosophy in this DPSP. Fine. Sorry. न्यू लिबरल क्या है वो समझाना है मुझे. या समझाता हूं. Right? You are a student of economics, so I'll take that angle, okay? But उस वे में समझाना है कि सबको समझ में आए. If you see the liberal as a philosophy that started in 17th century, right? And who's the father of liberalism? John Locke, right? If you look at the classical liberalism, the John Locke talked about that we each are free and equal, right? All individuals are free and equal, and everyone have same amount of liberty. I have same amount of liberty as Vaishak has, right? And both are reciprocal, right? Liberty does not mean license, right? I have a right to do anything, but I have not right to harm the other's liberty. Fine, I have right to sing, but ऐसा नहीं गाना गा के किसी के दिमाग में खराब कर दो. Got the idea? So one has liberty, one has freedom, right? And that liberty is given by the state, by the nature itself, right? So everyone has right to life, right to liberty, and right to property, right? It was against the theory of divine right. Earlier there was a divine right theory. See the medieval age. There was a divine right theory. Who is the powerful? God. And after God, who is powerful? King. And parallel to the king, there is a pope. These were the power structure. Pope and king. Right? But if you look at the 17th, 16th century, 17th century, in UK, modern philosophers challenged the idea. Right? And they said that all are equal. That is a classical liberal. All are equal. All are equal and free. And free. Right? And state should be limited. Let me tell you. A state should be, or I'm writing here, limited state. Limited state. Whether you say state or whether you say government. Government should be limited. Government should not intervene in individuals' affair. कोई शादी कर रहा है, अब स्टेट वहां पे जाके नहीं बोलेगा शादी किससे करना है तुम्हें मैं बताता हूं. No, individual is a rational, right? And he's a best judge of his interest, right? A state should not come and intervene, right? Right? And that limited state, that person, Adam Smith, I'll talk about the exponent. First, understand the idea. They talked about all individuals are equal and free, and state is limited. Exponents are John Locke, Adam Smith. Right? Adam Smith talks about freedom in domain of market, in domain of economy. Right? He talked about individual is an economic rational being. जब आप कुछ खरीदते हैं तो मोल भाव करते कि नहीं करते हैं? Right? You use all rationality when you exchange anything in market. नहीं करते? करते हैं. करते हैं. जो नहीं करते वो बिल्कुल गड़बड़ है. Straight trees are cut first. Let me tell you. जो सीधा पेड़ होता है ना उसको पहले काटा जाता है. काटने की बारी होती है तब, right? But otherwise there is no straight trees, right? All individuals are rational, right? Anyway, so government should not intervene the economic affair. Let the individual starts any economic engagement, right? So if I want to start a university, I should be free to start a university. If someone starts to, wants to start, for example, courier business, let them start, right? So state should come intervene minimum. When state intervene, when your contract is violated. When your contract is violated. Fine. So they talked about limited state. A state has only three roles. One is security. If some other country, foreign country attack, a state, must protect individual, its own people. Right? So they construct army. They must maintain law and order. They must maintain law and order. And they must do enforce contract. Enforce contract. And rest of the things should be left alone to individual. Right? इकोनॉमी कैसे, कौन अब मान लो कि कोई धान उगा रहा है, कोई जूता बना रहा है, कोई कुछ कर रहा है, स्टेट शुड नॉट कम एंड इंस्ट्रक्ट कि तुम धान बोलो, तुम आलू उगा लो और तुम जूता बना लो. नो, let the individual decide, right, about their economic engagement, right? So individual should be free in economic matter as well. This is a classical idea of classical liberal. The two ideas you must, and if you look at liberty was the freedom. Liberty is the core principle of liberalism. Let me tell you, this liberalism was a revolutionary idea. Why it was a revolutionary idea? Because if you see the medieval age, the power was held by the Pope, by the king, right? And both were competitors, right? If you are attacked by the Pope, king may protect you. If you are attacked by the king, Pope may save you. But if you are attacked by the both, no one can save you in the world. Jointly, they are called absolute power. If you are attacked by the both, no one can save you on the earth, right? And power lies in the Pope and king, and the rest of the people were powerless. What was the source of power? The God, right? God was the source of power. Fine. Now, if you look at the liberalism, they rejected the idea whether God has made the king or king has, Adam or Eve, or if Adam and Eve have transferred the sole right to the king, inheritor. And they rejected the idea of, hierarchy. They said all are equal and free and state should be limited. Fine. If you see have you heard about glorious revolution of Britain? नहीं. अच्छा, फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन सुना है, अमेरिकन रिवॉल्यूशन सुना है. मेन आइडिया यही था, ऑल ह्यूमन बीइंग आर इक्वल इन वर्थ एंड फ्रीडम. The larger idea was all human beings are equal in their worth. No one is superior, no one is inferior. Fine. What the idea? This was a classical liberal philosophy. Now, if you see, classical liberal philosopher thought that the freedom will bring prosperity. What? The freedom and equality will bring prosperity for all. But if you see that this classical liberal philosophy produced a set of economy that is called capitalism, right? Due to the industrialization, you can see many factories, new innovation of science and technology, right? These classical liberals produced an economy that is called capitalism, and capitalism was based on private property. Right? If you look at 17th century, 16th, 17th, 18th century, till the 19th century, there was an industrialization. And each country of the West, passed through a phase of industrialization, isn't it? Now, if you look at the industrialization, right, it did not produce the prosperity for all. What happened? It produced prosperity for few and vulnerability for many. Prosperity for few and vulnerability for many. Who are the many? The working class. If you look at this time, right, urban society came into being. Who was the largest city of India before British came to India? Bengal was not a city. It is still rural. The Bengal is very large. उस समय तो बंगाल बहुत बड़ा, कोलकाता था भी नहीं. 3 गांव मिलकर के कलकत्ता बना है, कालीकट, सूतनती एंड चंदन नगर. दिल्ली? No. Banaras. Banaras was the largest city of India. Right? And if you see after British, they had developed port cities. Bombay, Surat, Vishakhapatnam, right? And this Calcutta was, on the bank of Hooghly, the Ganga river, right? So that they could easily transport their goods and commerce through the, waterway, right? Now, if you look at the entire industrialization, whether it is Indian industrialization or whether it is a Western industrialization, they produced huge working class. There was an urban society, and there was a huge working class, and there was only few who were industrialists. Right? You can honor. Fine. What happened? If you see, there was no working hours. There was no fixed working hours. 14 hours, 16 hours, right? There was no fixed wage. Wage was very less, right? It depends on the negotiation. And there was no standardization of the people, to whom you will incorporate into labor. There are lots of problems. What happened? This kind of urbanization, produced a huge inequality between haves and have not. And this incident, entire episode, influenced many scholars of the West. And they talked about, we don't believe this capitalism or liberalism, right? We have to create an alternative economic and social order. And they started calling themselves socialist, right? They started calling themselves socialist. So they analyzed that this is based on private property, right? And production is carried on for the profit. Fine, isn't it? Hota hai na? And what is profit? It is not mere profit. It is also exploitation. It is also exploitation. Batao kaise? Right? How this profit is also exploitation? For example, if you look at the common transaction, right? What we started producing commodity. We went to the market. We sold commodity in the market, and we bought a new commodity, isn't it? If you see, for the common system, we produced wheat, we went to the market, sold the wheat and took the money, and then we bought, you know, belt, shoes, clothes, whatever the requirement to satisfy the need. नहीं, ऐसे ही होता है ना. But in capitalism, capitalists come with the money, right? And they produce commodity, right? In order to they produce commodity, they bring, you know, machine, right? They buy land, and again they sell it and accumulate money. Now this AM would not equal to be this AM dash. This initial money investment would not be equal to the final money. Otherwise वो इंगेज ही नहीं होगा. अगर मनी लगा करके आप उतना ही पैसा होगा तो फिर क्यों जाएगा प्रोड्यूस करने. The M dash would be always greater than the M, right? So what is called profit? M dash minus M is equal to delta M. समझ में आ रहा है? It's not high mathematics. The last पैसा जो आया है पूरा और जो इन्वेस्टमेंट है, you called it is a profit, but it is also exploitation. How it is exploitation? Let me tell you. There are two examples I can give you. The workers come at the morning at 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. right? And what do you pay? You pay always less than the market rate. For example, market wage is 500 or 600, so that he can easily satisfy his basic need. What happens? The owner negotiate with the labor. Since there is many labor, there are many, you know, it's called army of labor. There are many people unemployed, so they negotiate, and they negotiate at 300 rupees for 12 hours work, right? Now, if you see from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., they work in 300. So for each labor, how does he, how many money he kept in his own pocket? 300. So 8 पे ये 300 करता है. Fine. In this process, this labor joined him in job at 8 a.m. and he worked 300 till the 6 p.m. 6 p.m. तक काम कर लेना है उसको, उसने जो किया है, right? 300 में जो काम करना था उसने 6 p.m. तक कर दिया, but he has contract, he had to work till 8 p.m. 2 hours he works, call you can call free labor, right? Which generates capital, right? This capital M also include profit plus exploitation. This capital M, fine. Now socialists thought that this is a very exploitative system. What we will do, we will try to eliminate this. I'm not going to in that socialism, defining socialism. What happened? Liberals revised their theory, right? Now mind it, they were talking about limited state. State should not intervene. Now they started talking about no, state should intervene. State should intervene for what? State should intervene to take care of the vulnerable people. State has to play a positive role to take care the, you know, vulnerable people for their education, for infrastructure, right? For social protection. They are called modern liberals. They are called modern liberals, right? Getting my point? They were agree that there should be freedom. कि अगर ठीक है, few people are generating income, few people have hold on the market, that's fine. There should be liberty, right? But at the same time, state should not be limited. State should be a big state. You know big state, what does mean by big state? It is an American concept. State will help you at every moment. Health, education, right? क्या बोला? कौन सा act? No, it's not nanny. Yeah, it's a form. Yeah, it's a type of nanny state. ब्रिटेन में इसको nanny state बोलते हैं. ब्रिटेन में इसको nanny state बोलते हैं. यूएस में इसको big state बोलते हैं. Right? And it came, मुझे लगा कि तुम वो लैंड डील एक्ट बोलोगे. Right? उस एक्ट का नाम बोलोगे जिसके थ्रू ये आया था. And they talked about state will take care of welfare of the people. They came with the welfare state. They came with the idea of welfare state. Who? Positive liberals. This idea came in, in 1920s, 1930s. Right? If you see the classical liberal idea, they were prevalent in the 16th, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. This idea, the freedom. The modern liberals, this idea came in the 20th century, right? In which the philosopher talked about a state should not be a limited state, a state should be a big state or nanny state. Right? There are many philosophers. Have you heard about this man? James Keynes. James Keynes. Right? He said that state should regulate the market. Right? Otherwise, market cannot be regulated itself. So, for better prosperity, for better growth, a state should regulate the market. Right? So there should be redistribution. A state should impose progressive taxation. You know progressive taxation? Progressive taxation means किसी को 10% टैक्स देना है, किसी को 20%, किसी को 30%, किसी को 40%. Depend on income. That is called progressive taxation. Right? And a state should collect money and redistribute among the public in terms of education, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of health, in terms of social security. Right? By 1960s, if you see, by 1960s and 70s, if you look at, there is a new set of philosophers who came and criticizing this state role in economy or welfare. And they started talking about rolling back of the state. Right? The rolling back of the state. Right? And they said that market is a solution for anything. Market can solve all the problems. Basically, they are the new liberals. New का मतलब होता है updated. New liberals, right, who was reviving the classical theory of liberal idea, individual freedom, I'm writing here liberty, and limited state. This time they coined a new term called minimal state. Minimal state. राइट अच्छा बिग स्टेट तो बताया मैंने इसमें फिलोसोफर कौन कौन था इसमें था लाइक टीएच ग्रीन अगर आपने नाम सुना हो हेरोल्ड लास्की नेहरू के जो गुरुजी थे द एंटायर फैबियन फिलोसोफर ब्रिटाइस वेब सिडनी वेब देन यस जेम्स कीन्स राइट वेवरेज ये सारे थे इनको क्रिटिसाइज करना इन्होंने शुरू कर दिया क्यों क्रिटिसाइज करना शुरू कर दिया देयर वाज अ रीजन इन्होंने देखा कि भैया स्टेट के इंटरवेंशन के बाद तो ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम है व्हाट वाज द प्रॉब्लम स्टेट कलेक्ट मनी प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन ऑन द नेम ऑफ वेलफेयर एंड व्हाट हैपेंस The all money goes in the babu's pocket and the politician's pocket, right? So सारा corruption में चला जाता है, right? And when you impose large tax, what happens? It restricts individual to invest. मान लीजिए कि मैं 10 करोड़ कमाता हूं, 4 करोड़ मैंने टैक्स में ही दे दिया. 4 करोड़ अगर मैं 1 करोड़ टैक्स देता और 3 करोड़ बचता मेरे पास, तो आई कुड हैव इन्वेस्टेड इट, राइट? तो दे टॉक्ड अबाउट कि प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन बहुत बुरा है. State should roll back for what? For minimal estate, right? So state should go for the privatization. State should not run any industry, right? State should not run any industry, privatize it, give it in the private hand, right? And you should open the market, you should de-license, right? State should withdraw from public spending. तुम राशन बांट रहे हो, नो, राशन नहीं देना है, राशन फ्री में नहीं देना है, right? What will decide? Market will decide everything. Market will resolve any problem. For example, employment. How market can resolve employment, right? If you invest, if you focus on the market, for example, investment, there'll be growth, isn't it? There'll be growth, right? And growth will trickle down. का क्या मतलब है? एक एग्जांपल बताता हूं. वैशाख के पास मतलब 4 अरब रुपए हैं, right? और वैशाख has bought land in Greater Noida. Now he planned to settle down a housing society, right? Now he has money, he has invested 4 Arab rupees, right? And he invested it. Now you see, he will employ engineers, he will employ construction workers, he will employ many people. So, right? So many people will come here, he will give money to the everyone. वहां पे सराउंडिंग में लोग क्या करेंगे? दुकान बना लेंगे, है ना? Now if you look, this investment has generated so much of growth and given so much of money to the local people, right? So growth always trickle down, right? And market has all solution. For example, if the entire area will have employment through the privatization, through the investment, what is bad into that, right? So everyone will employ, right? Everyone will have access to income, and government will not have need to distribute free ration. अगर आपके पास इनकम होगा, आप राशन खरीद लोगे मार्केट से. Why need to distribute freely, right? So they are the neoliberal. Neoliberals basically are the updated version of liberal idea. They focused on individual liberty and minimal state, right? They are also called market fundamentalist, right? For example, agar in the why state comes with the logic of environment, कि यो environment पॉलिटोरा industry बंद करो. Neoliberals argues, no, don't need to actually shut down the industry. You need to transform the technology, right? So for example, you should not ban or prohibit the car driving or car manufacturing. You should promote the transfer of EV, not transformation of technology from petrol to CNG, then CNG to electronic, EV, electrical vehicle. So, even this market can resolve the problem of environment. It can resolve the problem of inequality. It can resolve the problem of poverty. It can resolve anything. Education, it can resolve, right? मान लीजिए कि कोई भी जहां पे वैशाख ने पूरा बना रहा है पूरा हाउसिंग सोसाइटी, वहां पर जाकर के वो बोला कि दुकान मुझे यहां पर एक बड़ा सा स्कूल बनाना है, right? So let allow individual to compete in the market, right? And let allow everyone to buy, right? So if you see the 1990, एक चीज आया था 1989 में. If you see 1989, this year was a very 1989-90. This year was very transformational in domestic politics and also in international politics worldwide. If you talk about international politics, the disintegration of the USSR, Berlin Wall collapse, the entire Eastern European country, which was socialist country economy, transformed their economy from socialist to market-led yes, capitalism. Fine. If you look at the domestic politics, the majority of country agreed with the US that there is only one ideology, that is capitalism, and we have to open the economy, right? The World Bank, IMF, and US Treasury Department came with the idea popularly known as Washington Consensus, right? It said कि लोन कौन देती है पूरे कंट्री को? IMF. Now IMF ने कहा कि लोन इसी शर्त पे दूंगा जब तुम अपना मार्केट को ओपन करोगे. I'll give you loan only on the condition when you'll open the market reform. What do you mean by market reform? Privatization, social fund cut, yes, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, right? Then don't need to give pension. Pension khatam karo. You are paying extra money. You end up this pension, right? And don't keep permanent employment. Earlier in socialism, even the modern socialism, used to keep a permanent bureaucrat or permanent teacher or permanent medical staff, permanent judiciary. Now you see LPG argued, the state don't need to keep permanent staff. Privatize it. Contract pe de do. Now you can see teacher on contract, everything on contract. Everything on contract. Fine. So that is a neoliberal philosophy. ठीक है? तो neoliberal के बिना without actually series में है ना? Sorry. Did you get the idea what is difference between modern liberal and neoliberal? What is that difference? Exactly. The modern liberals talks about the big state, right? The big government, nanny state. A state should care from birth to death, right? Birth में कैसे? For example, birth में कैसे help कर सकता है state? Yeah, maternity support, right? Giving nutritious food to mother, right? Giving some amount of money, free vaccination, so and so forth. So birth हो गया. अच्छा, death में कैसे statement कर सकता है? Medical facility, and then there should be a state should start construct shamshan, right? Shamshan, right? And जो cremation हो, that should be must be free of cost. Got the idea? So यहाँ से जन्म से लेके मृत्यु तक, from birth to death, a state has to take care for everything, right? It was influenced by socialism, right? Socialism को मैंने bypass कर दिया बीच से ही, right? And we actually talked about, but this new liberals talked about rolling back of the classical state, where individuals should be free and there should be minimal state, and individual should have absolute right to property. His property should not be theft, and his property should not be taxed without his own consent, right? ठीक है? तो absolute right to property. समझ में आया? चलो. Yeah, any question, any query about liberalism, modern liberalism? I hope it will work. It is the idea that you should understand, whether you study geography, whether you study history, whether you study politics or whether you study economics. There is a common idea, right? Marx को socialist भी पढ़ते हैं, public एडमी पढ़ाया जाता है, economist भी पढ़ाते हैं, सब पढ़ाते हैं, philosopher भी पढ़ाते हैं, right? तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, this is a common idea, right? And each idea is interlinked. The multi approach, economic approach भी है उसका, political approach भी है, social issues भी है उसके साथ. Fine. Now let me talk about DPSP. Right, amendments in the DPSP. Right, first 42nd amendment. First 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Write about it. Right. You want to go? Yeah, you should. Right. Right. This is called mini constitution. This CAA. This CAA, Constitutional Amendment Act, is also called mini constitution. Due to several changes, it brought in the Constitution. For the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, called mini constitution, due to several changes it brought in the Constitution or to the Constitution. Right? It added 3 DPSPs. It added 3 DPSPs. First, 39A, that is equal justice and free legal aid. Simple ऐसे लिखो, free legal aid. Second one, 43A, participation of workers. In the management of industry. In the management of industry. Third, 48A. Yeah, 48A. 48A. Protection of environment. Protection of environment, wildlife, and forest. Right. So this now write 44th CAA, 44th Constitutional Amendment Act and DPSP. (44th Constitutional Amendment Act and DPSP). Right. Am I audible now? Daman, Amber, States shall strive to minimize economic inequality. States shall strive to minimize economic inequality. Minimize economic inequalities. Economic inequalities in a status, facilities, and opportunity. In status, facilities, and opportunities. And opportunities. Fine. So that is the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act and the changes, right? 86th CAA and DPSP. 86th CAA and DPSP. Right? It redefined Article 45. It redefined Article 45. Right to education was transferred to the fundamental right. Right to education transferred to FR, fundamental right, under Article 21A, and Article 25 or Article 45 directs the state for early childhood care. Early childhood care. Right, 97th CAA and DPSP. '97th CAA and DPSP. Right, it inserted 43B. It inserted 43B and directed the state to promote cooperative society. It inserted Article 43B, which directed the state to promote cooperative society, right? It also inserted right to cooperative society as a fundamental right under Article 19. Right to form cooperative society as a fundamental right. It also inserted right to form cooperative society as a fundamental right under Article 19. Done? So these are the Constitutional Amendment Act and addition to the DPSP. Now I'll talk about one most controversial thing in 19. I hope when I taught you Article 19, I talked about this Constitutional Amendment Act, Cooperative Society. Now I'll talk about Uniform Civil Code. Uniform Civil Code. I hope you have heard about it. Right? Do we need a Uniform Civil Code? Yes or no? Yes. Be free to talk. Deliberation is always good, right? We should talk about all aspects of anything and then reach to the conclusion. What's the problem in saying yes or no? Right? ऐसा थोड़ी है कि मैं बदनाम हो जाऊंगा या हो जाऊंगी yes कहने से. Nothing like that. I'll talk about Nitish, Uniform Civil Code. Let me tell you some background about Uniform Civil Code. Now, if you look at the Indian society before British came to India, neither criminal activities nor the civil activities were codified. Neither civil activities or the criminal activities were codified. Right? What happened? The British actually codified the criminal activity. British came to India. It established Supreme Court. Right? It established, High Court, and it also established Indian Penal Code. It made a law commission. Right? It made a law commission, and that law commission codified the all activity. Right? Chori kisko kehte hain? Right? What is robbery? What is stealing? Right? हमारे लिए सब एक ही था. Right? So what punishment one will get in killing? Right? Killing in murder. But they did not touch the civil affair. For example, marriage. They did not touch. Right? They did not touch the divorce. They did not touch adoption. They did not touch inheritance. What law govern inheritance? What govern govern the marriage? What law will govern the succession? What law will govern the transfer of the property? Making sense? Basically, all civil activities were governed by the social customs. Right? In case of Hindu, the Pandit used to be there for the decisions, and in case of Muslim cleric was to be there, Mullah. Right? And civil law was not codified. Got the idea? When British government came, right, they codified the criminal law. They codified and they introduced IPL, Indian Penal Code, IPC. Right? But they left civil on community. Right? अब जिसको 5 शादी करने हैं 5 करो, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. Right? But at the same time, let me tell you, it's not that British did not touch. The many civil activity was criminalized. For example, sati. Sati was criminalized. कि अगर सती जाओगे तो इधर मामला हो जाएगा, सिविल से तुम्हारा खत्म होके इधर आ गया. Now, if you look at, so you got the idea what is civil activities and what is criminal activities, how British codified the criminal law, but it left civil activities like marriage, marriage के बाद inheritance, succession, etc. Got the idea? See, what is Nitin, especially Nitin? Yeah, Nitin, you were asking what is civil. Now, if you look at the Constituent Assembly debate, right? बहुत important Constituent Assembly debate, right? You must write. अगर कोई भी idea आपको पता है कि Constituent Assembly debate में ये बोला गया था, you must write. And if you know the person who talked about it, like Ambedkar sometimes talk about it, sometimes any person, right? Now, there was a contestation whether we should come and form the Uniform Civil Code. What is Uniform Civil Code? It means we make a uniform law regarding marriage, regarding succession, regarding property inheritance, right? Regarding adoption. Regarding adoption, right? There was a two group. one group was in support of Uniform Civil Code and one group was in opposition to Uniform Civil Code. The group who was actually opposed of Uniform Civil Code had argument that India is a multicultural society. Right, if you look at from northeast to the southern part of India, there are many cultures, right? So we should not touch the Uniform Civil Code, otherwise it will damage the Article 25 and it will also damage the Article 26, right? And it will establish the tyranny of majority over the minority. Who are the majority? The majority who has the similar practices, the northern Indians, right? And if you look at Kal Bahasarati in Mizoram, there is one custom, elope and marry, right? Are you from Mizoram? दो student था हमारा Mizoram से, नहीं है आज? There is one student ना from Mizoram. Yeah, I think Bishwajit, are you there? I was talking about, I think Assam. It's a practice in Assam or Mizoram. You are from Mizoram. Is there any practice of elope and marry? Yes, he's talking. Yes, there is a, right? Now, अगर आप यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड लागू कर देंगे कि मैरिज कैसे होना है, तब तो वो भाग के शादी कर ही नहीं पाएंगे, right? So there are majority opposition of Uniform Civil Code. But if you look at, there are few people, right, who talked about no, there should be Uniform Civil Code, and they argued that even the a very fundamentalist country, right, and the Muslim country of the Gulf, also they don't sacrosanct some law as a personal law, right? They have some law regarding the marriage, adoption, etc., etc. And finally, we did not frame Uniform Civil Code, right? We did not, right? What happened? What Congress did, Congress brought some changes in the Hindu practices. For example, polygamy was already prevailed in Hindu religion, but Hindu Marriage Act prohibited polygamy, right? It also prohibited, it actually granted equal right to women regarding property, inheritance right. Got the idea? But if you look at the Nehru silently or maybe intentionally did not touch the other group, Muslims. There are many group hai, बहुत सारे group hai, right? There was many group. He did not touch that. What happened in 1985? There is one famous case of Shahbanu, right? I have talked about it, Shahbanu case, when I taught you secularism. In Shahbanu case, what happened? Supreme Court granted right to maintenance to women, Shahbanu, right? And Supreme Court said that woman is equal in all sections, right? If woman after divorce has a right to maintenance, she has a right to maintenance. But what happened? The Muslim community took it as an offense of the state, right? They mobilized, and consequently what happened? Rajiv Gandhi government terminated the Supreme Court verdict. Fine. Now if you look at, this is the time when the BJP took the idea of Uniform Civil Code to politicize, right, and started criticizing Congress as appeasement to the Muslim community, right? The BJP accuses Congress that it is a pseudo-secular party. It is not secular party. Secular means treating equally to all. But let me tell you, secularism doesn't mean treating equal to all, right? Fine. Anyway, and BJP included Uniform Civil Code agenda in electoral manifesto all the time, right? It included the Uniform Civil Code. And in Sarla Mudgal case, there was one case in which Supreme Court said states should work in order to implement Uniform Civil Code. Still, there was government has given this task to Law Commission of India to consider whether we need, right, whether we require Uniform Civil Code or not, whether we have necessary, right. Law Commission, recommended that Uniform Civil Code is neither necessary nor required in India. That is the recent. Now, if you look at, there is only one state where there is a Uniform Civil Code. No, Goa. Goa is the only state. Uttarakhand में अभी dialogue चल रहा है, बनाया नहीं है. Uttarakhand initiated the process. It had formed a committee, and dialogue is going on whether we need a Uniform Civil Code or not, right? And I think Uniform Civil Code should be applied. If we apply, we should apply it based on state basis. Some state is very heterogeneous. For example, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, northeastern states are very heterogeneous, and there are multiple practices, right? So Uniform Civil Code will create actually problem. अगर feminist view से Uniform Civil Code मानोगे, तो feminists are very critical of cultural right, the polygamy, right? Because all culture have subordinated women, all culture.
To give equal rights to women as
Exactly. Uniform Civil Code is a very necessary to give equal right to women, right? There was already Triple Talaq Act, right, passed by the government in 2019. It was a very welcome step to give equal right to women, right? Even there was a term that is called halala. Have you heard about this? Recently, the Hindu covered the term halala, explained it, right? There is a request to the court that whether we should abolish this halala from the Muslim personal law, because it does discriminate women, right? So that is the entire idea about Uniform Civil Code. See, whether if it harms the cultural individual, if it discriminates any woman or man, whatever, right, or woman especially, and women advocates that we don't need this cultural right, we need Uniform Civil Code. In that state, we must have Uniform Civil Code. But in few states where the people wants, right, because let the people debate, discuss, right, and decide whether they want Uniform Civil Code or not, right? If they want, we make the law, let make the law, Parliament make the law, or the state legislature make the law regarding Uniform Civil Code. For example, Goa has Uniform Civil Code. No, how, see, there are few practices, see. For example, untouchability. Untouchability was a practice. It hampered a lot. After the law and untouchability, I think, violence is more towards the untouchable, ex-untouchables, SC community. But it does not mean there should not be law. There should be law, right, to protect the untouchable, ex-untouchable, right, or SC. There should be law if a particular group don't want it. For example, if woman does not want it, why you should provide polygamy? Got the idea? So it depends on the community, and let the people gather together, debate it, deliberate it, and discuss it to reach to the conclusion. And if it should be the state-wise, isn't it? Rather than a pan-India act, right? India is a multicultural society. If you ask me what is the benefit of Uniform Civil Code, there are many benefits, right? Then the harm. Fine. So will you write? 5 मिनट में, लिखिए तो. Write Uniform Civil Code, Article 44. अच्छा, नहीं समझ में आया? पूछो. Yes, you are right. You discuss among yourself, that's fine. समझ में आया? Personal law actually. Because women wants it, na? They don't want a polygamy. So why men should enjoy polygamy? अगर मान लीजिए कि वुमेन पॉलीएंड्रस हो जाए, तो क्या मेल एक्सेप्ट करेगा? देखो वैसा कैसा कर रहा है. राइट? सो सी, अगर आपको वो चीज मंजूर नहीं है, तो सामने वालों को भी मंजूर नहीं होगा. Isn't it? क्या हमें भी बता दो. आर्टिकल कौन सा? नहीं है क्या? (121) क्या है? यूसीसी बैरक देखो ना, मुझे बैरक दो, मुझे कंफ्यूज करोगे. 44 है भाई, डीपीएसपी की बात हो रही है अभी. हाँ, यूनिफॉर्म सिविल कोड फॉर सिटीजन. State shall endeavor to secure for the citizen a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. That is Article 44. Right? State shall endeavor to secure for the citizen a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. Right? You keep this. Right? The origin of UCC. The origin of UCC is date back to. The origin of UCC goes date back to colonial India. The origin of UCC goes back to the colonial India. The British government codified criminal law. The British government codified the criminal activities, not law. British government codified the criminal activities, but it did not touch social practices like marriage, adoption, succession, divorce. It did not touch social practices like marriage, divorce, adoption, inheritance, etc. Therefore, civil activities remained uncodified. Therefore, civil activities remained uncodified. Right? The Hindu personal law, there is no such law, right? Hindu social custom, you can write Hindu social custom. There is no such personal law, right? Because Hindu is a very diverse community. It's not a homogeneous community. Right? So there's a Hindu social customs allowed civil activities, and in case of dispute, Hindu social customs allowed civil activities, and in case of dispute, Pandit used to resolve it. according to Hindu religion. Pandit used to resolve according to Hindu religion. Similarly, civil activities among Muslim communities were allowed as per the Muslim personal law. Allowed as per the Muslim personal law. In case of conflict, the Muslim clerics used to resolve it तो छूट गया चार्वा का. In case of conflict in the among the Muslims, right, religious cleric used to resolve it. Muslim cleric used to resolve it, right? जिसको हम मुल्ला भी बोलते हैं, they used to resolve it. Fine, मौलवी बोलते हैं, मुल्ला भी बोलते हैं, कई जगह मौलवी बोलते हैं, कई जगह कुछ और भी वर्ड बोला जाता है, different words, different. क्या टाइम ज्यादा हो गया? ऐसा कुछ नहीं ना, अभी है ना टाइम, राइट? देखिए, in the Constituent Assembly, change the paragraph and write, in the Constituent Assembly, UCC was debated among members. UCC, Uniform Civil Code, UCC was debated among members, and majority was in opposition of the UCC, and majority of was in opposition of UCC. Right? The members argued that the application of a UCC will violate Article 25 and 26. Right? And it will establish the rule of majority over the minority. The rule of majority over the minority. Right? Next point you write. Okay. K.M. Munshi was in support of UCC. K.M. Munshi was in support of UCC. He argued that nowhere in the advanced Muslim countries, the personal law of each minority, nowhere in the advanced Muslim country, the personal law of each minority is sacrosanct और sacred, जो भी वर्ड लिखना है आपको, sacrosanct और sacred, पवित्र. sacrosanct मतलब जिसको टच नहीं किया जा सकता है, right? Is sacrosanct. or sacred. Therefore, UCC can be applied. Therefore, UCC can be applied. Okay. Article 44. Article 44 directs the state. Article 44 directs the state to create a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. Throughout the territory of India. Next point you write. Right. Indian state reformed civil activities among Hindus. Indian state reformed civil activities among Hindus like abolition of untouchability, polygamy, equal property right to women, through different acts. ACT, yani law, through different acts. However, it left Muslim personal law and personal law of other minorities untouched. Right? Okay. Next point you write. Are you writing 8 Harsh, Manogna, Daman, Amber, Lal Choranga, right? Rishabh Verma, Sakshi. Are you writing? Yeah. The strength of online students has become low because they are at home and they are involved in puja. Right? Might be अब तो शायद उतना नहीं जाते. हम अपने जमाने में रात को देखने जाते थे, मतलब घूमने. राइट? अपने जमाने, अब तो मोबाइल पे सब कुछ है भाई. अब तो आपके पास मोबाइल है, लाइव वहां से दिखा देते हैं. हाँ, वहां पे जाकर के देखना. हाँ, ऑफ कोर्स पहले नहीं था तो लोग बहुत जाते थे, लोग घर से बाहर निकलते थे. एक किताब खरीदना होता था, हम लोग पूरी नई सड़क को घूम आते थे. हाँ, एक राइट, या पूरा बेरसराय घूम आते थे एक किताब खरीदने के लिए. राइट? अब तो ऑनलाइन है, सीधा घर पे बैठे बैठे, और वो क्या करता है, 150 रुपए की किताब 500 रुपए में आपको चिपका के चला जाता है. राइट? बस उस पर एक स्टिकर लगा देता है. बेरसराय टूट गया? क्यों नहीं? तो कब से? अभी? इतने भी जवाहर बुक डिपो नहीं है वहां पर? ओके, स्मॉल जो पुराना किताब बेचते थे, पुरानी किताब. ओके फाइन, पुराना एरिया है हमारा वो. एनीवे, राइट, इन 1985, राइट डाउन, इन 1985 the Supreme Court, in 1985 the Supreme Court upheld right to maintenance for Muslim women. In 1985, the Supreme Court upheld right to maintenance for Muslim women in Shahbanu case. 85 है या 86 है, ऐसा करके ईयर में हो सकता है. Upheld right to maintenance for Muslim women in Shahbanu case. But the parliament overruled the judgment. But the parliament overruled the Supreme Court's judgment. Next line. The BJP, I don't need to define BJP, you all know the BJP means Bharatiya Janata Party, right? The BJP accused Congress, for the appeasement of Muslim community. Appeasement. BJP accused Congress for the appeasement of Muslim community and described Congress version of secularism as pseudo-secularism. 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 It argued similar treatment to all individual. It argued similar treatment to all individual, irrespective of religion. Hers, I'm coming to your question, just finish it. Supreme क्या लिखा? BJP similar treatment for all individual, irrespective of religion. It incorporated the agenda of UCC in electoral manifesto. It incorporated the agenda of UCC in electoral manifesto or election manifesto. Right? And demanded UCC. In Sarla Mudgal versus Union of India case, this is Supreme Court case. In the Sarla Mudgal versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court held that in the Sarla Mudgal versus Union of India case, the Supreme Court held that it is the obligation of the state. It is the obligation of the state to take appropriate step. It is the obligation of the state to take appropriate step to implement UCC. Right? Not लिख लीजिए. To implement UCC, Goa is the only state where UCC is applicable. Right? Goa is the only state where UCC is applicable. Right? Uttarakhand, you can write here, this is the updated idea, information. Uttarakhand established a committee, appointed a committee to consider UCC. Uttarakhand government appointed a committee to investigate or to consider the UCC. Now, Hertz has asked, what was the meaning of SC judgment in the Shah Bano case?